Hello again. We are Chris Lee and Chase Robinson of Southeastern 16 here to do SEC football power rankings heading into week 9. Chase Robinson, as always, we start at the bottom where Mississippi State has been your number 16 team for a while. And of course, it is the only one-win team in the league. State, according to Jeff Sagarin, has played the toughest schedule of any SEC team so far and is a team that is getting better every week. This is the team that you just can't take for granted. It has now played 3 heavyweights in 3 weeks, and I think given each of those teams a little more than it bargained for.
That's what I was going to say. Like, yeah, they're the bottom team of the SEC, but they're not exactly playing like that. The record shows that, but I think they're playing better football. I mean, they're getting better. That's what you want to see. They're getting familiar with Jeff Lebby, getting familiar now with a new quarterback in Michael Van Buren, who I think is a great freshman quarterback. So, yeah, I see really good signs from Mississippi State that they are heading in the right direction. They just got to turn it into wins now.
Yeah, we'll be talking about another freshman quarterback later in the power rankings, but I think Michael Van Buren has got to be on that short list of SEC Freshman of the Year so far. Number 15, Auburn. The Tigers have been here forever, and I don't know that there's much new to add. I mean, at least they didn't turn it over much.
So. Right. They didn't turn it over much. They just gave up a 17-3 lead to Missouri, and that's a problem. Again, they don't look like they're on the same page. They can't finish. That's a problem. They almost beat the number 19 in the country, Missouri, had the chances, couldn't do it. And so, they haven't won an SEC game yet. You can tell there's frustration on the sideline. So yeah, there's issues there, but I think this still is a good team. It wouldn't surprise me if they rattle off some wins here in the next few weeks, but it's definitely a frustrating time there on the Plains right now.
4 losses in 4 games for the Tigers, 3 losses in 4 games for this next team, the Oklahoma Sooners. The only win in there against Auburn. Awful, awful weekend for Oklahoma, which fired its offensive coordinator on Saturday night, Sunday? I don't remember now. I don't know if that is or isn't the issue, but anyway, the Sooners not looking good so far and just offensively cannot figure it out with injuries, certainly not helping at all.
Yeah, I mean, they have a true freshman quarterback. They've had so many receivers out. The offensive line has struggled with injury and can't really block anybody. So I feel like the letting go of your offensive coordinator, I don't know if that's necessarily the problem. To me, that's a little bit of an overreaction from Oklahoma. But hey, they did it. But yeah, it's just not what we thought. Again, they've battled some adversity. They've had to go to a different quarterback. Jackson Arnold came back in on Saturday. They just haven't been able to find a groove, I feel like, offensively this season. And their defense has been able to hold their own at times, but, the offense has just really brought them down.
Yeah, Seth Luttrell had come in as a pretty reputable offensive mind, had been the head coach, I think, at North Texas, was also the quarterback coach. Of course, they played quarterback roulette this weekend, and so maybe he takes the fall for some of that too, but I don't know how anybody was going to really piece this together, knowing what we know about health and issues, and they can't even get Deion Burks healthy, who we thought would be maybe a top 5 offensive player in this league.
Yeah, you're right, and Oklahoma's a tough team to figure out, as is kind of the bottom level teams of the SEC. So I don't know if I would go around betting on these teams. But let me tell you about our friends at BetOnline. They are the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything when it comes to sports betting. Every matchup, every stat, matchup breakdowns, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. They've got the largest catalog of odds on everything from football. Got the Major League Baseball playoffs, the World Series coming up, NHL, NBA, 2 political props. When the game's over, you can go to the online casino. They've got blackjack or poker or 150 slots games. So head over to their website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here.
Was you a bet that Florida put 48 on Kentucky Saturday?
No, I would not have. Was not expecting that at all. We were talking earlier, this Kentucky team has just been a roller coaster. I mean, offensive struggles. Their defense has been really good at times. And then other times, they've let teams just run all over them. So they're a tough team to figure out. I think again, kind of like what we're talking about with Oklahoma. Like, I feel like the offensive struggles has kind of brought the whole team down. There's only so much you can do when you solely depend on your defense. They're going to let you down at times too, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing from Kentucky right now.
What a weird last few weeks. I mean, let's go back to, what was it, September the 14th. They come within a point of beating Georgia, slaughter Ohio, take Ole Miss down in Oxford, get a bye week. And then I think maybe the moral of the story is Vanderbilt just breaks a lot of teams this year. That seems to be the case.
Right.
But they lose the game to Vandy. I thought that would be a bounce-back spot. They give up 476 yards and 8.1 yards of play to Graham Mertzless Florida. And what didn't help, also 3 turnovers. So I don't know what else you say about the Cats, but the continuing inability to get offense going in Lexington I think it's becoming a problem for Mark Stoops.
I think it is too. And where do they go from here? What do they do? What changes do they make? I'm just not sure. I really am not. And you look at what they have ahead, and so I just don't know. They've got Auburn this week, and then they go to Knoxville, take on Tennessee, and then finish up with Murray State, Texas, and Louisville. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what they can string together for the back half of the schedule.
Arkansas is 12, kind of by default, and I try in my voting not to do too much recency bias, but at the same time, I'm not sure how we would have had Arkansas much higher. Look, the last 3 weeks, Arkansas has been either ahead of or dead even with its opponents. I say the last 3 weeks, the last 4 weeks, it spans 3 games. There was a bye week in between. Yards per play, outgain A&M 5.3 to 5.0, lose the game. Outgain Tennessee 5.9 to 5.2, win the game. 5.5 yards per play for both sides in that LSU game, but the difference here, 3 turnovers for Arkansas, none for LSU. Still think there's a good football team in here, but it's hard to elevate the Razorbacks much higher than 12 at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, again, like some of the other teams, we've seen some really good things, and then we've seen some not so great things from Arkansas. And yeah, I thought they would, compete better in this LSU game. LSU's just playing. I mean, they're one of the hottest teams of the SEC right now, and Arkansas hit them, at a bad time. And so, yeah, I think Arkansas still has a chance maybe to do some things this year and win some games. But they got Mississippi State and Ole Miss in their next 2 games for a bye week. So yeah, I mean, I think Arkansas can still rattle off some wins. But yeah, I do like what they do offensively and their defense and Travis Williams and what he does on that side of the ball. So yeah, I think Arkansas is just in a tough position right now.
All right, let's talk about number 11, the Florida Gators. And Chase, my goodness, the opening day loss to Miami, 41-17. Week 3, lose 33-20 to Texas A&M in a swampy game in the swamp. Just looked awful. Got a little bit of a reprieve next week with the Mississippi State team that was just changing quarterbacks and everything. But let's rewind the last 4 games for this team. Florida may be the only team in the SEC, and I would bet it is, that over its last 4 games has both outgained its opponent and either been ahead of or even with its opponent in turnover margin. Those games at Mississippi State, UCF, at Tennessee, and Kentucky, the Gators playing really well right now. And I think the offense is getting the attention. Defensively, though, the last 3 weeks, 273 yards allowed to UCF, 312 at Tennessee, 309 to Kentucky. And, oh, by the way, defense has forced 6 turnovers over those 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, Florida is playing so much better right now. And you got to wonder what things would look like if they had kind of started the season off with this chip on their shoulder that they have right now. Because I do think they're playing good football and things are working for them. Things are coming together. And I thought that win over Kentucky was huge on Saturday night for them to be able to do that. And so, I think this is a Florida team who sees who they can be now, and I think they're playing that level. They're they're getting it done. I mean, they've got a good roster. The schedule's brutal, as we've talked about all summer long. But yeah, I think this Florida team is starting to find themselves a little bit.
Number 10, the South Carolina Gamecocks, who had one of the more dominating wins on the scoreboard this weekend in a 35-9 rout at Oklahoma, in which South Carolina sacked the quarterback, I believe, 9 times. I'm just going to read you some stats. South Carolina has won a game 31-6 with 252 yards of total offense. It's won a game 23-19 with 305 yards. It has now won a game Saturday 35-9 with 254 yards of offense. Turnovers, sacks, that is how this team gets it done. Unfortunately, the Gamecocks also given up a lot of sacks, but what an interesting team from week to week is South Carolina.
They really are. Their defensive front, their pass rush is incredible. And what we were talking with Corey Reamer from Alabama last week, and he was talking about their pass rush like, this is some of the best in the conference right here. With Kyle Kennard, Dylan Stewart, these guys they're for real up front, and I think that's what they can put pressure on teams that teams aren't used to seeing that from both sides, and so their defense is really good, and do they have their share of issues? Yes, especially offensively, but they can hang their hat on pressure, and forcing turnovers, that's huge. I mean, the way they were able to kind of take control of that game Saturday in the way that they did and taking advantage of opportunities given to them. I was telling somebody Saturday, look, I feel like South Carolina is the best team at taking advantage of opportunities that are given to them by the other team. Yeah. Not every team can get a turnover and turn it into points every time, but I feel like South Carolina is so good at that. We saw that swing in the second quarter against Alabama where they made it 14-12 off a couple Alabama mistakes. They go up 21-0 Saturday off of Oklahoma mistakes. Like, that's just, this South Carolina team takes advantage of opportunities given to them.
All right, I'm going to get to 2 really confusing teams next in our power rankings. I don't know for a second that we got this right, especially one of these. But I'll tell you what I am clear about. We've got a great sponsor in Future Fans. We've talked about them in past weeks. They sell a kit for $49.99 in which you can explain football to your kids. Starts with a book. I think we've shown this a little bit before. A really nice, high-quality book, thick stock, nice cover, all those things. You can see the box set behind me. There's like 7 or 8 different things in this whole kit. And I cannot believe this thing costs $49.99. But it is a way to teach football to your kids or your grandkids and explain it in a way that they really can enjoy the game in the way that we do. And I've heard many success stories of people who taught it to the kids and they learned it. We've given you the book. I want to show you something else. Part of the kit is, Chase, it comes in all these little boxes. You need to get this for your son if you haven't. But if you open the box, one thing that really strikes me is the quality of the material. So I've got 4 bean bags right here. These are used to teach about down and distance. We've also got some rope hoops that are used to teach the same thing. And sometimes kids learn by visuals, right? They learn by trying things. The beanbag thing is to illustrate you get 4 shots at a possession. You get 4 plays in the possession. And that's really the kind of thing that has made it ring home for kids. They learn about the storybook. Then they get to do the exercises, which brings it to life for them. And if you don't believe me, talk to people that have bought these games. Check them out on Amazon. They've got a 4.9 rating on Amazon. I'm lucky, Chase. My kid, I don't have to teach him to watch football with me. He just Saturday, he knows all the games, who they're going to be. But boy, if I'd had this when he was little, it would have helped me explain it to him a lot faster. Cannot recommend these guys enough. Go to futurefans.com, enter the promo code SEC, get 10% off your order, unlock a lifetime of memories, and help out those who help the show.
And Christmas right around the corner, too. That's a perfect Christmas gift.
And seriously, if you are a father, grandfather, grandmother, whatever, get this. I mean, I cannot believe this thing only costs $49.99. Just looking at the quality of the stuff, I feel like there's a lot in that box. You make this purchase, you will not regret it. All right. Missouri might have some regrets about the way it played 2 weeks ago. I'll tell you what, who's got no regrets is Brady Cook. Kid leaves the hospital, comes back, leads his team to like Auburn. That's another thing to add to your bingo card. Get beat by the quarterback who's in the hospital in the middle of the game. But in all seriousness, Brady Cook, that was a game for the ages. Hats off to that kid. I've always really liked him. In Missouri, I know that it's probably played the easiest schedule so far of all the SEC teams, but 6-1, still in the playoff chase. That loss to A&M was bad on the scoreboard, probably not as bad on the resume. Tigers got a chance, but they got to take care of business. Probably need to steal one in Tuscaloosa this weekend.
Yeah, Missouri's at a position that maybe we learned there's not a ton of depth on this Missouri team in that game Saturday, just because, they went down big. They really couldn't get anything going with Brady Cook out. Nick Newell got a little banged up there in the first half, and we didn't think we were going to see either player. And guess what? We did see both of those guys come back in and kind of lead the charge. But yeah, Brady Cook's a game changer, and really like his effort, and he realized, hey, I got to come back and help lead my team back. And he did. Like he's a game changer. That's what Brady Cook is. And so tip of the hat to them. But yeah, they're in a position, that their hopes and dreams are still out in front of them. Yeah, they win at Tuscaloosa. That's huge, and they rattle off some more wins down the road. I think Missouri's in a great position.
Yeah. Number 8, Ole Miss. I think we've been unduly harsh on Ole Miss, but I get it. I think when, your best win of the season so far is out South Carolina, which is looking a little better after last week. But your other 2 games of consequence, Kentucky at home, you lost that, and then you lost at LSU in overtime. I mean, statistically, this is still a really dominant team. I mean, we kind of forgot about LSU for a while, and then we saw LSU make a run. I wouldn't count out Ole Miss for making a run, and let me give you some stats here. Yards per play, 7.7 yards per play. That is one of the better marks in the SEC. In fact, I think it is the best mark, and it is. And defensively, yards per play, they've given up 4.4 per rush. They're giving up 2.9 yards per rushing play. Run defense really, really stout. Ole Miss has still got its season in front of it if it can win out. If it wins out, it makes the playoffs. So don't sleep on these guys, Chase.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they kind of got lost in the shuffle this week, especially they didn't play. So, maybe we weren't really thinking about them and thinking about the teams that play. But I like this little 3-game stretch they have before their next bye week of Oklahoma, at Arkansas, and Georgia. I think 2 out of 3 of those are definitely winnable. What I'm seeing, Chris, this year in SEC football surprised me none. If Ole Miss beat Georgia or something crazy like that. Like Ole Miss is I feel like a team of runs that could get on a run and would surprise me none if they were able to do that.
2 plays from being unbeaten.
Yeah.
So is this next team. What a world we are living in. We are past the midway point of October. Vanderbilt is number 7 in our power rankings after starting the year at 16. And the Commodores ranked during the season for the first time since 2008. Now, James Franklin, his last 2 teams in 2012 and 13, both ranked in the season, but never ranked during the season. Hats off to Clark Lee and Vanderbilt. Not a very exciting win over Ball State Saturday, but a win nonetheless. And now the Commodores crash both the coaches and the AP poll.
Yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt's in a position. Yeah, they have a chance to keep winning. Like this is this is one of those incredible stories of college football that we're going to be talking about for a long time. What they're doing this season, and yeah, it doesn't matter what the score is to me. Win's a win. That goes in the win column, and they got Texas coming into Nashville this week, and we'll see what they can do if they can keep this dream alive. But I love what's happening up in Nashville.
All right. Alabama. We got a lot of things we could say about Alabama. One of them would start with discipline. I'm going to go a little different route, though. Alabama still got a lot of season in front of it. I think this team could still make the playoff at 9-3. Look, the win over Wisconsin on the road looking a little better. The win over Georgia, probably the best win anybody's had this year. Vanderbilt and Tennessee on the road, not bad losses. I know that sounds crazy in the case of the first, but it's really not. I mean, Alabama, you get Missouri Saturday, then you got 4 games to go. And really, I think LSU, I shouldn't say it, Auburn rivalry game. You never know what can happen in that game. But if you get Missouri on Saturday and you can sneak a win in Baton Rouge, which it's done before, I think Alabama's going to the playoff. All their goals really not that far away, even despite the way it's looked at the last 3 weekends.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, and I've said this. I said this after Vanderbilt loss. I'll say this after Tennessee loss. Like, what Alabama wants to do is not gone away. Like, they've got a bye week before LSU. They'll have extra time to prepare for the Tigers. It's a winnable game, I feel like. They just got to get some things together, and clean up some penalties. I think that's a big part of it as well. But, they fix some of these issues, and yeah, the playoffs are not out of the reach of Alabama yet. And I will say that until they probably have 4 losses, which I don't know if that'll happen. But look, I think this Alabama team can win out. Wouldn't surprise me if they drop that one to LSU. LSU's playing so good right now. But yeah, again, the hopes and dreams for Alabama are still right there in front of them.
The per play numbers and some of the stats on the whole, look, they are scoring 38.1 points a game, giving up 21.3 against the number 3 strength of schedule, according to Jeff Sagarin right now. Yards per play, they're giving up 4.8. They're gaining 6.8. Elite numbers right there. Here's the issue for them. Penalty yardage, 78 yards a game. That's second worst in the league. And their special teams ranking on SP Plus is 84. I think that makes them the worst special teams in the league besides Texas, which is kind of surprise. I think those are 2 things. It's the little hidden things that you don't think about that are really killing Alabama.
Yeah, it really is. And, again, they clean some of that up. It's going to look much different, and as Kayla DeBoer said in his post-game presser, they're going to do some soul searching. Like there's some issues that they need to fix. And from what he can tell, these guys are in it to fix it.
All right, up at number 5, as I pull this up, and I'm a little surprised, but this is, ranking these next 5 is not easy. Tennessee at 5, could easily make the case for Tennessee as high as 2 or 3, but these other teams have got some things to prove too. But hey, here's the thing. I think this is where we all. I think Tennessee right now is going to make the playoff, but you cannot go 3 straight games without an offensive point. At some point, that's going to bite the Vols. Now, look, that tells you how good the defense has been. The defense has been unbelievable, but got to get that part fixed. I think that's a lot of people's concern.
I think so too. Look, they we saw them in 22 get this one over Alabama, and then they just kind of they couldn't finish the season out. I think this is a different year and a better team. They go into the bye week this week, and then they'll have Kentucky, Mississippi State, at Georgia, UTEP, and at Vanderbilt. Like those are games that this offense is going to have to come ready to play. Like they're not going to be able to turn the ball over in these games and win them. So Tennessee, like, good football team. Defense, really impressed with them. The pressure they could put on opposing teams, really impressed with it. Like and we knew it was going to be that way for Tennessee this year. They're living up to that. Like I think their defense can keep them in a lot of games. They have so far, but the offense has got to find ways to produce as well. So yeah, there is a case for Tennessee, I feel like, to be higher, but I feel like 5's a good place for them. I think we're still trying to figure this Tennessee team out somewhat, so yeah, I think 5's an all right place.
Yeah, here's some things that they're doing really well. Turnovers, they turn over just 1.2% of the time, and this is offensive things because I know this is the concern. They're on the field 74 plays a game. That's number 1 in the SEC right now. They average nearly 40 points a game. I get that some of that's been inflated, and they get 5.8 yards per rushing play. That is just a tenth of a point behind Ole Miss, tied with Auburn for the second best rushing offense in the league. Again, sacks taken out of that. So the recipe for Tennessee is pretty clear. I think they're going to ride Dylan Sampson, who's going to put up some record-breaking touchdown numbers. And you hope that you get with experience, which is a possibility with Nico, that as he gets more used to playing ball and seeing defenses, the passing comes around. But right now, there is a formula for them to win, and it involves getting stops on defense and just keeping your offense on the field and keep churning out first downs the way the Vols have done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. When you have Dylan Sampson, who is a game changer as well. Like when you have him, like you can do big things.
Yeah. Next up, Texas A&M at number 4. I feel like I could argue either team first right now. A&M's offense not quite as good as Tennessee's on the balance of the season. Strength of schedule pretty similar. A&M's defense giving up 4.8 yards per snap. Tennessee giving up just 4.0. The Aggies were kind of, you would have liked to have seen more at Mississippi State. Connor Wegman wasn't great, but look, everybody in this league has a bad week at some point or an off week. And so A&M was kind of due for one. It got it. Good news for the Aggies. They didn't lose.
Yeah, and that's big. Like you go on the road in the SEC, it's tough. And Texas A&M, got control and were able to win that game. And they're playing good football right now. And again, like you mentioned, Connor Wigman may not have had his best game, but they still won and put some good points on the board. So Texas A&M, I like what I'm seeing from the Aggies right now.
LSU at number 3. LSU playing about as consistently well as anybody in the league right now. I'm going to give you some stats that just kind of blow your mind. LSU has sacked the quarterback 24 times this year, which is, I think, third or fourth in the league. And LSU's given up 2 sacks, Chase. 2. We talked about their tackles coming to the season. The next best mark, A&M has given up 7. Georgia's given up 8. So only 3 teams that have given up single-digit sacks. And LSU gave up 2. And I think they've been stuck on 2 for a while. I don't know when those 2 came. But that is an incredible number. And it does a lot to explain why they've been so good, because it's hard to get an offense off the field unless you get some sacks, which a lot of times come on third down. But those sack totals, I think, explain a lot of LSU's success.
And it's incredible what we've seen, the improvements defensively for LSU from what we saw last year to this year. It's a world of difference. And I think that shows this team is more complete and they have a chance to do some big things this year, because I feel like they've quietly got to where they are right now. They lost that opener. Maybe some folks wrote them off, and now they're rattling them off. This is a dangerous team in LSU.
All right, I'm going to take the same tack that I took with Alabama. Everybody's down on Texas right now after just what was maybe not on the stat sheet, but when you're up 23-0, as Georgia was in somebody else's house, that's a whipping. But Texas's defense has given up just 3.7 yards per snap so far. That is number 1 in the league. It is forcing turnovers 2.3% of the time. It's the only team that's allowed on average a single-digit point total, 9.7 points a game. Even after Georgia came in and won the game, the numbers for Texas's defense were solid. And here's another thing that just blows your mind. Texas has made 10 interceptions and given up just 1 passing touchdown this year, Chase.
Wow, that's incredible. Texas is – they're a good football team, how will they respond after this loss? I feel like they'll respond well. They're a good team that I feel like that can go deep, and what they're able to do defensively as well, I think is really good. But there's a lot of depth. We've talked about that. Texas just has a lot of depth, and that's going to help them down the stretch.
All right, we talked all week about how Georgia really had not played that well since the Clemson game. Georgia comes out and just dominates Texas early, never trails in that game. I don't know if it's – look, they're number 1. That was not a hard choice. I don't know if this is a case where you look at Georgia and say, hey, they haven't even come close to hitting their stride yet. Yeah. They're number 1 in the power rankings. Or it's like, is this a team that's just maybe not vintage Georgia? I don't know, but what I do know is you can't rank them anything other than 1 this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I have no idea. Are they back? I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if they are, if they're just starting to hit their stride now.
Yeah.
Or, if they were just super hyped up and motivated for this game. I have no idea. I think we'll find out more down the stretch. But yeah, they looked like the good old Georgia football that we're used to seeing Saturday night in Austin, Texas, and they were able to get it done. Credit them. They had a great game plan and really stopped what a lot of teams could not do with Texas this year.
Yeah, got to do something about the Carson Beck turnovers, but he's a guy that's given you a lot of good ball during his career, and I have a feeling that's going to turn around. All right, we'll be back here all week with football content, basketball content, even baseball content in the offseason. Best way to get that, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Caroline.Smith at southeastern14.com for advertising inquiries as we reach millions a year with all of our content. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16, presented by BetOnline.